the formation lap very shortly. The green flag has been waved at the back. And so we are ready to go for the first time here in Slovakia, as we talked about and heard in the first few stages of this live stream. We saw and talked about how this track was supposed to be on the calendar last year, and then for a change of schedule that didn't happen, though the debut of the Slovakiaring was only postponed to 2025, as Rehowa Poton is the theater of round number 2 this year. Naturally, of course, we see the cars now following the safety car towards turn number 1, and this gives us a fantastic chance to talk about this 5.9 kilometer racetrack in Slovakia. It's 14 corners, 7 to the left, 7 to the right, racing in a clockwise manner, in a racetrack that is actually very recent. It was built between 2008 and 2009, opened on October 1st in 2009, now 16 years ago, almost 16 years ago, of course. The birthday of the track coming in a couple of months' time, on a racetrack that has hosted a plethora of TCR sponsored events, most importantly, the FIA World Touring Car Cup between 2012 and 2020, with the exception of the 2017 season. In fact, this was the theater of the Race of Slovakia that took place all those years, with the stars, the international stars on the world stage of TCR racing, coming here on this beautiful racetrack that really is suited for TCR racing. We saw TCR Europe come here as well, the sprint series in the continental scene of TCR racing come here in 2021. And of course, TCR Eastern Europe is a stable presence on this racetrack from 2019 onwards. And of course, from 2025, it's TCR European Endurance's turn as well to come here at the Slovakiaring to race. Here are the cars getting ready to start off their race. On pole position, we talked about this a couple of minutes ago. It's Yuri Brigliadori, the new championship leader, alongside his new teammate Giuseppe Cartia, driver who's making his comeback to racing after a couple of years of absence. He's now ready to get back behind the wheel of a car. He was quite competitive in qualifying and free practice as well. Of course, Yuri Brigliadori, on the other hand, needs no introduction. The brother of the 2024 champion Eric has showed brilliant signs of competitiveness throughout the season, not just here at the Slovakiaring, but of course in Mugello as well in the opening round. And the same can be said for the drivers behind him, as Senna Somerville is racing in the very particular all-Jamaican livery car of Wimmerwerk Motorsport, the German team, giving Somerville the chance to shine in the DSG class. He is the category leader after taking the win in Mugello, and of course he is going to look very competitive this weekend as well. He did so far in the opening day of competition, taking the class pole yesterday and second overall. And just behind him, Ibrahim Okiai and Sinan Çiftçi in the Gen 1 car for Texaco Team AMS. And behind them as well, actually alongside them on the second row of the grid, it's going to be one of the fastest cars of the entire grid, Eric Scalvini and Salvatore Tavano, the latter waiting for his turn at the pits, with Eric Scalvini taking the start. But everything is ready for the second race start of the season, the first one in TCR European Endurance history here at the Slovakiaring, with Yuri Brigliadori on the right-hand side of the track and Senna Somerville on the left-hand side. We're ready to go here at the Slovakiaring as we go green right about now for the start of race number 2 of the 2025 TCR European Engineering season. And as we can see, it's Yuri Brigliadori claiming the lead, but watch out for Eric Scalvini as he tries to go around the outside, not just of Senna Somerville, who had a difficult start, but also of Ibrahim Okiai with a Gen 1 Audi of Texaco Team AMS, who looks to be now in second position. But Scalvini was very quick off the line, and he is now up into second. So the deficit created from qualifying has been basically neutralized from Wimmerwerk Motorsport, as Scalvini and Tavano are back into second position, with Ibrahim Okiai right behind, looking for a place on the podium. He is still in third. It was, on the other hand, a very slow start for Senna Summerville, who looked to have started off, but then of course had trouble once he hit turn number one. Not the fastest of reaction times for him, as he then was demoted down to 5th position. Here you can see Eric Scalvini trying to do his best to leave Ibrahim Okay in 3rd position, and then naturally trying to make up some ground over Yuri Brigliadori, who right now is the leader of this race championship leader following yesterday's qualifying result. He's looking to be competitive, though if the qualifying results have anything to go by, he's going to need a gap over car number 6 of Eric Scalvini and Salvatore Tavano in order to let his teammate Giuseppe Cartia fight with Tavano, of course, one of the most competitive drivers in recent seasons in TCR. Multiple TCR Italy champion, Salvatore Tavano. And a driver that has shown great competitiveness throughout the season so far, especially in Mugello, where he was looking for that elusive overall victory that just slipped out of their hands with just 30 minutes to go. But here we have the fight for the DSG standing. Senna Summerville, after a difficult start, is now on the back of Emilia Damante with the DSG Audi of Tudor Racing. Let's see if the Italian has to defend the position into turn 1, or if Summerville will have to wait to make a move. He looks around the outside with the switchback now. Up the inside goes Senna Summerville at the exit of turn 1. It's a brilliant move from the Jamaican driver, who now regains the DSG lead here at the Slovakiaring in stage number 1 of the 2nd race of the season. As you can see, Damante now defending the position. Now we have the graphics as well with the team names on the top left of the screen. BF Motorsport in the lead ahead of the first Vime Motorsport car. The number 6 staying in 2nd position with Eric Scalvini, whereas behind them now we have Texaco Team AMS with the Gen 1 car, the number 1 of Okiai and Chifchi, the former being in the car at this moment in time. And then of course we have Senna Summerville, who has overtaken Emilio Damante, who right now has to defend from a very competitive Anna Telkenar, both a TV racing journalist and a driver, making his TCR European Endurance debut. He's looked mighty competitive so far, finishing in the top 4 in qualifying number 1 when he took the wheel of his car as the number 2 entry for Texaco Team AMS. Then later finished in 7th position overall and in 4th in the DSG standings, now crucially fighting for a spot on the class podium. And they were able to take over 3rd place from Luca Giovannoni, though the Tudor driver is still in contention. You can see the Volkswagen being right behind them, Tudor being the only team bringing 2 different models of cars. Of course, Wimmerberg Motorsport brings 2 Cupras, though in a sequential and DSG configuration respectively. But Tudor Racing brings here an Audi RS3 DSG and a Volkswagen Golf DSG, trying to see which car adapts best to the conditions. So far during this weekend, they've been neck and neck, as the 2 of them started on the 3rd row together, now separated by Anna Telkenar in 6th position. Telkenar now looking to the outside, uphill towards turn number 2. He has some elevation changes here, of course, despite the pretty flat nature of the ground here at the Slovakiaring, though there has been some work to improve the various elevation changes present. The one before turn 3, this one was quite accentuated a couple of years ago before some renovation changes flattened the track a bit to improve safety conditions. But we have some very interesting points, especially, we'll see, after the first 10 corners of the racetrack before the back straight. We can see a very big elevation changes sometimes makes for very interesting situations, but watch out now for Alcalcanar as Damante has to go defensive towards turn number 7. Alcalcanar now looking for a potential move on the other Audi RS3 DSG to share the same piece of tarmac right now, and a very similar car as well, of course, with different setups and different technical works behind it. As here you can see the very crucial situation at the top of the standings with Yuri Brigliadori in first position, with Eric Scalvini, however, not too far behind him. And this has been the picture coming into this weekend as well, with BF Motorsport and Rimaverk on a similar pace, maybe with the general advantage for the latter, as we can see from the times made and set this weekend. It was Salvatore Tavano having the best overall lap time in qualifying 2, though some of the times promoted BF Motorsport to pole position, second in a row for their number 3 car and for Yuri Brigliadori, who took one with Alessandro Cidi back in Mugello, and here with Giuseppe Cartia, who's going to make his official racing debut for TCR European Endurance and for BF Motorsport in this championship. Later, during the race, when the mandatory pit stops will happen, let's not forget that the teams have to make a change of drivers and minimum of 2 tires as well, with the pit stop having to last a minimum of 2 minutes. As here you can see the great drone shot of one of the Texaco Team AMS cars, and that is Ibrahim Okiai in the number 1 Gen 1 car, who's leading the class standings, and it's an entry that has fought for the overall podium up until the very last lap of the race in Mugello, unfortunately coming short and finishing in 4th place, but everything is still to play for here at the Slovakiaring, and a great start has promoted them ahead of Senna Summerbell. The Jamaican driver now trying to come back to the Turks. The last lap was basically identical between the two of them, only 0.005 of a second separating Summerbell and Okiai in the previous lap, both lapping around 9/10 faster than the rest of the DSG class that we're seeing right here with the trio of Damante, Tarquinard and Giovannoni. While up front, of course, the front two having a much quicker pace, due of course to a much quicker car. Brigliadori and Scalvini both racing with a sequential gearbox in a Gen 2 car, meaning that both of these models have received updates after 2018, which is the limit in time that separates the Gen 1 class to the Gen 2, while the DSG class of course has a different gearbox equipped to the cars. Let's see if lap number 5 will be the ideal one for Ibrahim Okiai to keep gaining on Senna Summerbell, though he lost 1/10 of a second in the previous lap. And let's see if their teammate right now with Ona Telkenar in the car will be able to make a move over Emilio Damante, a driver who went off track in qualifying 1, causing a red flag, though he was able to come back to the pits and let teammate Edoardo Maccari handle the second part of qualifying as well. But Damante now seems at ease with his car. He's been very quick in Mugello, claiming a second place finish in the DSG standings in the opening race of the 2025 season. Now, of course, keeping that same position in these opening stages of the race. He was briefly in the lead as well, with Senna Summerbell dropping to second, though the Jamaican seems to have a better pace in the first half of this stage 1. But it has to be said that both Damante and Telkenar, and to be honest, Giovannoni as well, have become a bit quicker now in the second stage of this opening stint. As of right now, you can see them closing in on Senna Summerbell, the gap being less than 3 seconds now, with Senna Summerbell in the lead of the DSG standings. Diamante trying to catch back up as Onat Telkenar is looking to potentially make a move up the inside or around the outside, which will make it a bit more difficult for him, though the debutant here for Texaco Team AMS has looked very at ease with his car, and naturally, of course, he's now looking to make a move on Emilio Diamante, though the Italian, who started from 6th position in the overall standings, is now comfortably ahead by almost a second now, and closing in on Senna Summerbell, with Eric Brigliadori still in front. His previous lap, a 2-minute 13.7 compared to a 2-minute 14.3 of Eric Scalvini, gaining more than half a second on lap number 5, as we now start lap number 6 with BF Motorsport still in the lead. The gap now 4 seconds over Wimmerwerk Motorsport, whereas Texaco Team AMS is still in 3rd place. The Gen 1 car of Ibrahim Okiai, who's gained a couple of tenths on Senna Summerbell, who has to watch out for Emilio Diamante and the comeback of, especially as the latter is looking quite comfortable in this opening part of stage number 1. Emilio Diamante now lapping just 3 tenths slower than Senna Summerbell, who has been the pace setter for the DSG standings throughout this opening part of stage number 1 so far. Diamante now looking for a place inside the top 4 in the overall standings. But behind him, Onat Telkenar looks quite competitive, as the Texaco Team AMS driver seems to have a very, very quick car underneath him. You can see the battle between the two of them. Now Diamante having a crucial 1.3 second gap over his teammate. As now you can see the 3 cars from 5th to 7th overall going uphill and then going back down towards turn number 10. And then this very quick right-hander into a left-hander that brings them once again into an uphill section, the most uphill of the track, towards the back straight, as Senna Summerbell now is preparing the penultimate corner of the racetrack, the corner that really is the final one of the track, as the proper last corner itself is just a very small left-hand bend, as you can see it right now. That brings us to the finish line, which is quite close to the exit of the corner as well. It would be very interesting data point to analyze should the race come to the wire, like we had in Mugello, in that case between the PMA Motorsport entry of Sandro Pelatti and Franco Girolami, the winners of race number 1 in Mugello, and of course Yuri Brigliadori and Alessandro Alcidi for BF Motorsport. It's still Yuri Brigliadori in the lead, the number 3 car of the Italian outfit, in front of the pack by 4.8 seconds. Brigliadori still gaining 8 tenths per lap over Eric Scalvini, who's doing a good enough job, however, to keep the car in 2nd position and within striking distance of the 1st place BF Motorsport entry. Let's not forget, in fact, that after the mandatory pit stop window, we are going to have a change of drivers in all but one of the cars present here. In fact, Senna Summerbell here, with the favor of the cameras, is the only one racing solo after teammate and coach Chris Issa opted not to partake in the race after driving the car in free practice to gather additional data for the team. He's of course a phenomenally important presence in the Wimmerwerk Motorsport box, especially for Senna Summerbell, and he has been coaching him for the past few years now in what are Summerbell's first few steps, not just in motorsport but in the European section of it as well. As now cars start lap number 8 Eric Brigliadori with a 2-minute 14.2 in the previous lap. Eric Scalvini just less than 6/10 slower than his rival, as the Italian driving for Wimmenberg Motorsport is quite close to his fastest lap. As naturally, of course, we see the BF Motorsport entry of Brigliadori going towards turn number 2, but watch out for the fight for second in the DSG standings as Ona Telkenar looks to the outside of Emilio Damante into turn 1. There's no real change so far in the standings, but it looks to be Telkenar the fastest driver between the two of them, as Damante now sees the attack of the Texaco Audi. But the strongest straight line speed so far helps Damante stay in the lead in the fight for second position in the DSG standings, but now Telkenar is going to look to the inside, then the outside towards number 3, but he thinks better of it. Maybe looking for a potential move around the outside, or there's not enough room to stay to the left-hand side of Damante's car. But it seems as though Ona Telkenar really has the pace in this first half of stage number 1. He's then going to handle the car until the midway point where Berk Karpaklioglu will take over. Of course, Telkenar has a lot of experience in not just track racing, but rallying as well, taking part in the WC Turkey back in 2019. A lot of experience, of course, not just on track, but also off the track, as we talked about before. So you can see him still looking quite aggressive in the rear view mirror of Emilio Damante, who has to go slightly defensive into turn 10, compromising his line. But the Audi of Tudor Racing really seems to be at ease out of the corners, traction being maybe one of the strongest suits of their car. Whereas here, we see a fight that has been going on ever since the first round in Mugello. It's two different classes, a very similar pace between the number 1 car of Slovakiaring in the pit lane.
On track, but as well in a few minutes also in the pit lane, because we have mandatory pit stop for stage 1, so we'll see drivers for the driving change, as well changing tires, so adapting to what is also the changing condition of the track. We have a little bit warmer condition on track at the moment, as you see a lot of action with cars catching one each other, and of course with the driver change we will see who will be the fastest until the end of this stage 1.
And that was Antonio Caruccio explaining to us how the pit stop phase is going to happen in a couple of minutes time, as Brigliadori and Scalvini will have to fight in the pit lane as well, with now the fight for third place overall, as we were talking about a couple of minutes earlier, is between Ibrahim Okiai in the Gen 1 Texaco Team AMS Audi and Senna Summerbell, the DSG leader, with his Cupra Leon DSG car. As we now see that Ona Telkenar has in fact made the move over Emilio Damante, and Damante's teammate as well, Luca Giovannoni, has gone through for what is effectively last place on the DSG podium. So a double change in the standings sees Emilio Damante drop down to 7th position in the overall standings and 4th in the DSG class. Whereas so far in the lead, once again you can see Brigliadori staying in the lead and still lapping 0.4 of a second faster than Eric Scalvini. The gap now up to 6.1 seconds, and the two of them have been mighty consistent in the opening 20 minutes of racing. Brigliadori is now handling turn number 2, as we only have 4 minutes and 20 seconds now until the pit window is open. Back now with the images on the fight for third. Very briefly though, as Eric Brigliadori now goes slightly wide into turn 3, though that might also be a strategic choice, as he has a couple of corners to take flat out after that. So a better exit out of turn 3 with a V-shaped line coming into the corner could potentially be a very important section in his driving style, as now Brigliadori has brought his gap up to 6.1 seconds. Meanwhile, Senna Summerbell has been trying to induce Ibrahim Okiai into a mistake for a couple of laps or so. The two have fought already at Mugello with a phenomenal on-track battle that eventually proved and took Summerbell to the top. A little fight, which was for third place in the overall standings following Scalvini Tavano's retirement from stage number 2. As now we can see in the pits, Texaco Team AMS getting ready for their pit stop with now less than 3 minutes before the pit stop window opens. Let's not forget, all teams have to go in at least once during this window in order to perform a mandatory pit stop of 2 minutes. Because of course, BF Motorsport and Tudor Racing are preparing for their pit stops. Just a few indications for both Alessio Alcidi and Edoardo Maccari. Getting ready to jump behind the wheel of their Tudor Racing cars. Meanwhile, Senna Summerbell is going to keep the pressure on as Ibrahim Okiai holds third position for now. Senna Summerbell in fourth, but crucially both of them are in their respective classes lead. Okiai taking charge in the Gen 1 class, whereas Senna Summerbell is the top of the DSG standings. And here you can see the Texaco Team AMS box looking at the time screen, getting ready for their pit stop. Sinan Çiftçi is going to jump behind the wheel of the Gen 1 Audi, currently in third place in the overall standings, while the Berk Kalpaklioglu will take over from Onat Telkenar as the cars are now approaching the pit stop window. And looking at the standings, it's not a surprise to see Yuri Brigliadori up top with now a 6.8 second gap. Meanwhile, there's been some sort of technical issue for Emilio Damante, it seems, as he lost almost 17 seconds in the previous lap with 2:35.2, which indicates some sort of trouble for the number 8 Audi of Tudor Racing. Damante was briefly in the lead of the DSG standings as well, though a later overtake from Senna Summerbell demoted him to second. Then he fought with both Telkenar and Giovannoni, but unfortunately seems to be a difficult moment for Damante. But we'll see what happens at the next lap on the start-finish line, as the clock hits 30 minutes now, and so the pit window is officially opened. Every single team will have to pull into the pit lane at one point to perform a mandatory pit stop, and here is Emilio Damante struggling with his Audi. Some sort of issue for the team that is almost coming to a halt on the racetrack, and this could be a potentially race-changing event as the Audi eventually comes to a halt onto the racetrack, as the first team to pull into the pits is Texaco Team AMS as they go and change the front tires. This is car number 1 with Ibrahim Okiai leaving to Sinan Çiftçi the job of finishing this first stage here in Slovakia. Intense work going on at Texaco Team AMS as the tires on the front end of the car have been changed. There's a minimum of 2 tires to be changed as per regulations. And usually it's always the fronts, given that, especially in TCR racing, they are the ones that get worn out the most. Here's Ibrahim Okiai, you can see without his helmet, giving the last few tips to Sinan Çiftçi. Car number 1 is now done with their operations. Of course, they're going to have to wait until the clock of their pit stop reaches 2 minutes, as that is the minimum time that they can spend in the pit lane. And then they can once again rejoin the track, as now Yuri Brigliadori keeps on going. Let's see if Eric Scalvini pulls into the pits. It looks like he has, as there's no indication of him being to the back of Brigliadori's car. And yes, we can see right there the Cupra of Wimmerwerk Motorsport in the pit lane as Salvatore Tavano now gets ready to take over from Scalvini. And this is the difference in strategy that we talked about a couple of minutes ago. Of course, drivers with more experience in the car and with a better pace will stay on board for longer. And Tavano, he proved to be the fastest driver actually of the entire grid so far this weekend, as the safety car has been called out on track because of Damante's car, who was stopped on the track in sector number 2 after a technical issue happened to strike his Audi, who got stricken on the racetrack, and go in order to remove it. And there it is, Damante's car. The marshals and of course race direction has decided to call a safety car out on track. We briefly saw Luca Giovannoni pull into the pit lane as well, behind Scalvini and Tavano's Cupra on the bottom right hand side of the screen. There's also Senna Summerbell in the pit lane. We're waiting for Yuri Brigliadori to come into the pits. He still has to pull into the fast lane. Same goes for Onat Terkenar, as the safety car now is proceeding out on track, likely waiting for the leader of the race. We'll see if Yuri Brigliadori will pull in at the end of this lap or not. Otherwise, he could potentially lose quite some time compared to his rivals. As here you can see the safety car now reaching turn number 3. We saw Salvatore Tavano getting ready to take over from Eric Scalvini. We're now seeing their teammates down at Wimmerwerk Motorsport in the all-Jamaican car of Senna Summerbell. He is going to stay inside the car, of course, whereas here is Yuri Brigliadori, who pulls into the pit lane as Salvatore Tavano now gets released out on track. He's going to have to adhere to the safety car delta, of course, but he has a chance of performing a potential overtake during the pit stop window, though Yuri Brigliadori and Giuseppe Cartia had a sizable gap of around 7 seconds over them. Now Cartia and Brigliadori working together to ensure a smooth transition between the two of them, as Alcidi is now released onto the fast lane after he took over from Luca Giovannoni, and Alessio is now therefore ready to start his race once more, not under green flag conditions, of course, as we have the safety car out on track for now. Meanwhile, pit stop phase still going on for Yuri Brigliadori, as Giuseppe Cartia is now in car number 3. Brigliadori helping him getting strapped in, as the 2 Texaco Team AMS cars have been caught behind the safety car as of right now. Same goes for Salvatore Tavano, as here the marshals work tirelessly to try and remove Damante's car as quickly as possible from the racetrack. This is definitely not what Tudor Racing wanted, especially after giving so many positive signs throughout this opening stage of the season. Damante Maccari taking second place in the DSG standings in Mugello, and their teammates Giovanni Nalcidi taking third in the class results at the opening race of 2025. Though, of course, now Damante Maccari will not take home any points from this opening stage. Let's not forget the new rule stating that the point system has changed, and so drivers now are able to take home points for both stages, as well as qualifying, as well as the overall race results. Now, Yuri Brigliadori and Giuseppe Cartia are still in the lead, though crucially, they're not behind the safety car. And so Scalvini and Tavano are so far, as Terkenar now pulls into the pit lane. He still had to make his mandatory pit stop, as he now pulls into the pit lane to change a minimum of 2 tires, and of course driver giving Berk Kalpaklioglu a chance of finishing this race, as Brigliadori is now watching on from the pits as Cartia makes his way through his first ever lap as a TCR European Endurance driver in a race. Here is car number 2 being worked on, 2 front tires being changed, as well as the driver behind the wheel of the car, with Kalpaklioglu jumping in. And now things will be very interesting, because as Damante's car gets removed from the racetrack, we have Yuri Brigliadori and Giuseppe Cartia with a sizable gap over Scalvini and Tavano, who got stuck behind the safety car for a long period of time. So the gap will be quite sizable if things would stay like this, as the race resumed in green flag conditions, though we're not to that point just yet. We're waiting for the pack to be behind the safety car with all the cars, as now Kalpaklioglu is getting ready to once again get released. Here he goes. The Turk moves to the fast lane and then towards the exit, as Brigliadori is still watching Cartia try and catch back up to the group. Here we see Kalpaklioglu rejoining the track after the mandatory pit stop. He was the last car to do so, as of course now the pit window is coming to a close. And here is Emilio Damante's Audi, and unfortunately for him, stage number 1 ended prematurely for both the Italian and his compatriot Edoardo Maccari, who did not have the chance to jump behind the wheel. If the car will be good to go tomorrow, however, he will have the opportunity to start stage number 2, because of course the drivers who did not take the start today are going to do so tomorrow for stage number 2, which is ready to go, and is going to be ready to go at 11:45 a.m. on Sunday, the 8th of June. And after those 55 minutes of racing, we will be seeing and knowing who our race winners for all classes, as well as the overall standings, will be for the second round of the 2025 TCR European Endurance at the Slovakiaring. Now you can see the safety car going downhill and signaling the lapped cars to unlap themselves. Of course, this is done because otherwise Brigliadori and Cartia would have a huge gap of almost 1 lap over Scalvini and Tavano. So the Gen 1 Audi of Okiai and Chifchi is released. Same goes for Scalvini and Tavano, for Senna Somerville, and for the Volkswagen duo of Giovannoni and Alcidi, whereas Brigliadori and Cartia, with the latter driving their number 3 BF Motorsport car, will have to stay behind the safety car. So we only have now 19 minutes and 5 seconds remaining as all drivers work tirelessly to now catch back to the safety car. Now the standings see, of course, Giuseppe Cartia in the number 3 BF Motorsport car in the lead. Second position for Eric Scalvini and Salvatore Tavano. The latter now in the car with Senna Summerbell, who looks to have gained some time during the pit stop window, as Okia and Shifchi were the first ones to pull in. They did so as the safety car had not yet joined the track, so unfortunately they lost a bit.
A quite messy situation, first time ever for a driving change with safety car, but how was your stint until the yellow flag?
Yeah, after the pole position, the main goal was to keep the first position the first 3 or 4 laps, and then try to do my pace, and I did it. The safety car didn't play our game because we lose the gain I take in the first stint, but the race is still long, and we'll see Giuseppe how it is going.
Good luck for this. That will be basically a sprint final race for stage 1.
Yeah, 17 minutes left, and Giuseppe is leading now the race, so we'll see. I hope for the win.
Thank you, Yuri. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Antonio Caruccio. Taking the words of race leader Yuri Brigliadori and, of course, championship leader after taking pole position yesterday. The 7 points that have been given to him were enough to propel him in front of Sandro Pelatti and Franco Girolami, the former championship leaders, after they took the win in Mugello. Now Brigliadori watching on as Giuseppe Cartia is in first place. He will be the one later catching the safety car. With now the group of cars trying to catch back up to the red Toyota, who is the safety car for this weekend here at the Slovakiaring. Here you can see the box of Tudor Racing as well. Of course, we can see now Salvatore Tavano getting ready. Of course, this is a very tough moment for drivers. They need to stay at the top of their mental game as well, as it is quite hard for them to stay behind the safety car for such a long period of time, though naturally it is quite tough for them to then restart. As here you can see some lovely images with Eric Scalvini on the left, Yuri Brigliadori on the right, and the mediator of some sort, Eric Brigliadori, the champion of the overall standings from 2024. And here is Scalvini and Brigliadori being one beside the other, explaining what happened and explaining their first stints of the stage number 1. Let's not forget, of course, that the entire race results will be taken from the sum of the times between stage number 1 and stage number 2, which is going to take place tomorrow on Sunday, June 8th at 11:45 local time. That is the time when we will be racing as the green flag would fall. As the safety car has now in the lead. There's also one of the Texaco team AMS cars who was unfortunately lapped and is not directly challenging Cartia and BF Motorsport for the lead. Let's not forget, of course, Texaco team AMS. They are the reigning champions in every single category, coming from 2024. They took home the overall title with Eric Brigliadori and Turgut Konukoglu before winning with Sedaka Chan and Ibrahim Okiai the DSG standings, and then Barkin Pinar took home the title in the Gen 1 standings last year. Naturally, of course, this meant that Texaco Team AMS was also the team's champions, following a very entertaining maiden season for the championship promoted by Mauricio Slaviero Campos. As now we wait for all the cars to catch back up, we are into turn 2 at the moment with the leaders, whereas Salvatore Tavano has just crossed the start-finish line here at the Slovakiaring, so very shortly the entire pack will be behind the safety car, as Senna Summerbell is one of the big winners of the safety car period, as well as Luca Giovannoni and Alessio Alcidi, as the number 38 Volkswagen Golf of Tudor Racing is now up to 4th place in the overall standings after running in 7th for the entire first stint, before of course their teammates Damante and Macari hit trouble with their Audi, and then they were able to overtake both Texaco Team AMS cars in the pit lane. Unfortunately, an unlucky situation for the Turkish outfit that now sees Berk Kalpaklioglu in 3rd place in the DSG standings, whereas here car number 8 seems to be moving again in the pit lane, though it was only to unfortunately move the car, it seems. As you can see there, Edoardo Macari ready to jump behind the wheel of the Audi, though I fear that this is not going to be possible in this opening stage of the second race of the season. So for Macari, the hope is to be able to race in stage number 2 starting tomorrow at 11:45 local time here from the Slovakiaring. No, he gets behind the wheel of the car. Of course, it will be quite important for them to get going again in this race, hoping to salvage some points out of the first stage. The new format that sees the point system being changed from 2024, as now all teams will receive points not just for qualifying and for the combined race results, but for the first 2 stages individual results as well, which is why Brigliadori is the championship leader as things stand, as the safety car seems to have switched off the lights, and so Yuri Brigliadori will see his teammate Giuseppe Cartia handle the safety car restart, the first of the season, as he seems to have gone quite about now, and he has a bit of a gap now compared to Salvatore Tavano, who has been caught behind 2 lapped cars of Texaco Team AMS. It's green flag racing once more with just 11 minutes to go, as the safety car is now back into the pit lane. Giuseppe Cartia now racing towards turn number 1, as the 2 Texaco Team AMS cars are fighting towards turn number 1, as Salvatore Tavano tries to lap them at the same time. Some tense moments into turn 1, but the multiple-time TCR Italy champion has made his way through the 2nd position on track as well, not just in the standings, as here Tudor Racing is trying to tirelessly work on Emilio Davante's car, as you can see the car still in the pit lane, while Salvatore Tavano is now in 2nd, 1.4 seconds behind Giuseppe Cartia. He's probably lost some more time through turns 1 and 2 as well, following the very difficult lapping situation he had to face. As behind him, Senna Summerbell is still in 3rd, leading the DSG standings ahead of Alessio Alcidi, who's now in 4th. You can see how close things are, especially now after the safety car, with Tavano now immediately to the back of Giuseppe Cartia. It has to be said that the intervention of the safety car has helped Wimmerwerk Motorsport gain some time, given that Brigliadori had created a 7-8 second cushion over car number 6, as now Scalvini sees his teammate Salvatore Tavano being glued to the back of Giuseppe Cartia. Will he try to make a move after turns 12 and 13 now, as Tavano races towards the penultimate corner of the racetrack. Let's see if he moves to the inside. He waits perhaps for the start finish straight to try and then launch the attack towards turn number 1 using the slipstream of the Audi. It's two different cars of two completely different philosophies right now, as Briatore and Cartia now start off lap number 19. But Salvatore Tavano is immediately on the back of Cartia. Let's see if he tries to move up the inside, and through goes Salvatore Tavano into the lead of stage number 1 here at the Slovakiaring. It's the first change of the overall lead in the standings, with just 8 minutes and 25 seconds left on the clock. Salvatore Tavano and Eric Scalvini are in the lead of the race, as now Tavano moves into first position. Meanwhile, there's been some work to be done in the stewards room, as both cars number 2 and number 3, crucially, have been handed a 15-second time penalty for safety car infringement. And so that is the formerly leading car in the overall standings of Yuri Briatore and Giuseppe Cartia on one hand, and on the other one is the DSG entry of Texaco Team AMS of Onat Telkenar, Emberg, Kalpaklioglu. So 15 seconds to be added to the overall race time after they cross the start finish line for the final time today, which is of course a disappointing moment for both teams. Unfortunately for Briatore and Cartia, the penalty will bring them further back compared to Wimmerwerk Motorsport, as Salvatore Tavano now races on in the final 7 minutes in a case of what could be redemption for Wimmerwerk after a technical issue happened to strike their Cupra, who got stranded in Mugello during stage number 2 with just 30 minutes left on the clock, as the number 6 car was looking more and more comfortable in the lead of the race. The same can be said now, as the gap is now 1.4 seconds, as Cartia now tries to hang on to second position, though with those 15 seconds of penalty he is at risk of losing the position at least to Senna Somerville. But watch out, because there is Salvatore Tavano who's been slowing down a bit, and he is now back behind Cartia. Let's see if that was maybe a communication happening over radio, or if Tavano actually has an issue with the Cupra now slowing down and slotting behind one of the Texaco Team AMS cars as well. Let's see if Scalvini and Tavano can now go back to racing speed. It looked to be a bit on the back foot now, especially in the corners, as car number 6 now lost a bit more time as well, giving the lead back to Briatore Cartia. And this could actually work in favor of Senna Somerville, because if he would be able to overtake the number 6 Cupra, who's been struggling so far throughout this lap, and were Senna Somerville to stay underneath those 15 seconds from Briatore and Cartia, he would be the de facto winner of stage number 1 and the leader of the race going into stage 2 tomorrow. But we still have 4 minutes and 44 seconds, though we can see there's been a clear issue for the Cupra of Salvatore Tavano. He's not in second place either, and he's not in frame either. So there's been definitely some sort of issues once again for the Wimmerwerk Motorsport number 6 Cupra, as disaster strikes once more for Salvatore Tavano and Eric Scalvini, as the number 6 car, here it is. It looks to be going slowly with just 4 minutes and 10 seconds on the clock. There's another twist of the tail as he now drops behind not just Senna Summerbelt, but behind Giovannoni and Alcidi as well, who are now looking to claim their first ever overall podium in one of the stages. As unfortunately the Cupra of Salvatore Tavano has to pull into the pit lane. What a shame for the German duo, and this is such an important twist in the tail, not just for this race but for the championship as well. It's a second. It's not just the result of this race, but their fight for the title in the overall standings too. As Calvini and Tavano pull into the pits and are likely to finish in 6th position today, some laps behind the race leaders, as Tavano has pulled into the pit lane, as well as the Audi of Davante Macari, who was able, the latter of the two drivers, to go back out on track. As now we see Briatore and Cartia take over from Scalvini and Tavano to the lead of the race, but crucially, let's not forget, they have a 15-second time penalty to be added at the end of this first stage here in Slovakia, which means that currently it's DSG championship leader Senna Summerbelt who could take home a historic stage 1 win, thus leading the entire race after the first half, and going into stage number 2 tomorrow. Of course, aided by both the time penalty to car number 3 and the safety car procedure that has neutralized the gaps ahead of the second stint for today. As now just 1 minute and 50 seconds to go sees the cars enter yet another lap with Cartia, who's lapping faster than Senna Summerbelt, but despite him being 2 seconds quicker than the Jamaican, the gap looks to be good enough for Senna Summerbelt to be promoted into the lead, barring, of course, some last-minute changes. It's been a first stage full of surprises here at the Slovakiaring, as once again TCR European Endurance brings the action on track for what is round 2 of the season. Senna Summerbelt now going towards turn number 3, whereas Cartia is pushing as hard as he can in order to try and make that gap as big as possible, which of course would mean that the gap that car number 3 has to make up in stage number 2 will be shorter. So every second and every 10th of a second counts here in what is the final lap of this opening stage. Giovanni and Alcidi also quite close to Briatore and Cartia. They are 14.2 seconds behind, though they did lose 3 seconds in the previous lap, so we are expecting Cartia to pull in front of Alcidi right at the last second, as now cars handle the latter part of the lap, as Senna Summerbelt is going to become the first DSG driver this year to claim the overall lead after stage number 1. As now Briatore and Cartia are getting ready to take over the last part of the racetrack and the final corner, as the clock strikes 0. And BF Motorsport, in what was a very topsy-turvy first stage of the race, will cross the start-finish line before everyone else. But crucially, it's going to be Senna Summerbelt who rounds out the final 2 corners of the racetrack to then take the checkered flag and be the stage 1 leader, thanks to Briatore and Cartia's penalty, Senna Somerville by about 5 seconds, is the winner of stage number 1 and the leader of race number 2 of the season, going into stage number 2, which will take place tomorrow at 11:45 local time. And what a feat for Senna Somerville and Wimmerwerk Motorsport. Once again, some mixed emotions for the German outfit. A perfect record for the DSG entry, car number 32, but again, problems for the number 6, as Calvin and Tabano had to pull into the pit lane from the lead. So it's Senna Somerville with a 4.967 second gap over Briatore and Cartia, and a 7.187 seconds gap over Giovannoni and Alcidi, who round out the overall podium and are second in the DSG standings. Then it's Okiai and Shifchi in 4th place, the leaders of the Gen 1 standings, though a full lap down from Senna Somerville, and the same goes for Telkenar and Kalpaklioglu, still 3rd, however, in the DSG standings. And here are the highlights of stage number 1 of TCR European Endurance from the Slovakiaring. The biggest surprise of the season so far sees Senna Somerville in the lead after stage number 1 here at the Slovakiaring for round number 2 of the 2025 TCR European Endurance season. He's done an amazing job in stage number 1. See you guys tomorrow for stage number 2.